my earnings from Wimbledon, with my earnings in general. I invest in my future. So
Tennis just experienced something the sport hasn't seen in decades. Not because of rankings, not because of seedings, but because of choices. In a single month, two players from the same tournament took completely opposite roads, and one of those roads led to a palace. The other led to a bottle on a beach. But here's what makes this story absolutely magnetic. We're going to spend the next few minutes showing you exactly why those paths matter so much more than who won what. Picture this: July 2026. A moment where professional tennis collides with national pride, personal ambition, and something most commentators completely overlooked. This isn't about being judgmental. It's about understanding what happened when the camera stopped rolling after Wimbledon, and why one player's decision to keep grinding through the toughest schedule becomes the real championship story. Before we get to the palace, we need to understand who walked into SW19 this year. Aryna Sabalenka didn't just arrive as the planet's top-ranked player. She arrived as a voice. All season, she'd been the one asking difficult questions about fair compensation, tournament structure, and whether the sport was actually valuing its athletes. She challenged broadcasters. She questioned tradition. She even stood across from skeptics who pointed out the irony of demanding equity while wearing pieces of jewelry most people earn in years. That's the person who walked onto the grass courts in London. Then something shifted. In her opening match, Sabalenka found herself in a different kind of battle than she'd been fighting all year. Not with tournament organizers, not with media critics, but with Naomi Osaka. First set slipped away, 6-2. The momentum that had carried her through months of advocacy just vanished. By the final set, it was over. She walked into the interview area, and the woman who'd been so vocal suddenly went silent, not strategically, genuinely silent. When they asked what came next, she was brutally honest. She wanted to disappear, not into a training facility, not into film study, into oblivion. 48 hours later, she was on an island with the ocean behind her and her phone in front of her, documenting the escape. What happened next is where this story transforms from sports news into something that reveals how differently two people can interpret the same opportunity. While Sabalenka was mapping out the best beaches, a younger player was still inside the same tournament, doing something that shouldn't have been statistically possible. Let's walk through what Alexandra Eala actually accomplished on those grass courts, because the numbers alone don't capture the psychological component. First round, complete domination. She dismantled Zorua with the kind of efficiency you see from established tour veterans, not from someone at her career stage. Straight sets. No second set collapse, no drama. Just clean tennis. Then came the round of 32. This is where things get interesting. Joint took her down in the first set, and that's when most stories end for a 21-year-old facing that kind of pressure. Except Eala didn't end the story. She rewrote it. 12 games, 14 points. She won 12 of those 14. That's not recovery. That's athletic dominance disguised as a comeback. The defending champion, Riga Swiatekova, world number 3. These aren't names you see in the draw and think, yeah, a young player from the Philippines is about to dismantle this. But Eala walked into that match with something different in her body language, in her shot selection, in the way she attacked on the second serves. The tiebreak was 7-6. The second set was 6-2, but the real score was one young woman's mentality against experience. When Swiatekova sat at the interview desk afterward, she didn't make excuses about Eala's draw or luck. She essentially handed over the victory and explained that Eala's technical variety was the difference. For the defending champion to frame it that way is admission. You don't see that often. Round of 16, Jasmine Paolini. This is the match where you see resilience tested against a genuine rival. Eala lost the third set. Federer was in the stadium. The pressure wasn't theoretical anymore. It was sitting in the audience, but her response wasn't frustration. It was reflection. She talked about what she could control, about approaching those moments with a kind of brave clarity that doesn't sound like something a 21-year-old usually says in defeat. Here's where the narrative splits completely from the Sabalenka storyline. A week passes, 1 week. Eala isn't at a resort signing off on vacation photos. She's walking through the doors of a place most athletes never access unless they're geopolitical figures or generational talents. Malacañang Palace, the official residence of a head of state. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. doesn't hand out presidential citations to just anyone. This is the same level of recognition that Manny Pacquiao received after defining a sport, that Hidilyn Diaz received after winning Olympic gold on the world's biggest stage, but Pacquiao spent decades building his legacy. Diaz had to summit the Olympic mountain. Eala did this at 21, coming off a grass court run in London. The president looked at her in that formal setting and said something that transcends sports. He reminded her that what she'd done wasn't just about her. It was a statement to the world about what Filipino athletes are capable of. What a young woman from Manila can do when nobody's writing about her yet, when investment dollars haven't flooded into her academy, when the infrastructure isn't there to support her. Then Eala stepped up. 4 words. I'm proud to be Filipino. That's not just a statement at a ceremony. That's a 21-year-old understanding, something that takes most people decades to figure out, that what you do impacts people far beyond the arena. Now let's talk about the number that makes this comparison absolutely cut. The WTA's official website quietly updated. Alexandra Eala's career prize money crossed into 6 figures. We're talking $185,000 in earnings. She didn't get there through massive sponsorships or appearance money. Every single dollar came from outplaying people on courts. That's the kind of number that changes how nations invest in tennis. That's the kind of trajectory that forces federations to start believing in their own infrastructure. Here's what happens next. This summer, 2 paths might converge again. Eala's opening her North American campaign, Washington, D.C., the final week of July into early August. Meanwhile, Sabalenka's preparing to defend her Cincinnati title. If both navigate their early opponents, the mathematics of the draw could put them in front of each other. World number 28 against the number 1. But it's not about rankings anymore. When they meet this summer, whether DC or Cincinnati or even the US Open itself, you're not watching 2 players with different rankings. You're watching 2 different philosophies about what it means to be a professional athlete. One player stood on a beach. Only one of those choices puts you in the same company as Pacquiao and Olympic champions. So here's your question for the comments. When these 2 finally face off on hard courts, who takes it? How many sets? Lock in your prediction now. Everyone who calls it in advance gets to say they saw this moment coming. Because if you've been paying attention from Miami to Berlin to that tiebreak against the defending champion, you've watched a career climb past $1 million in real time. Subscribe. Make your call. The real summer is just getting started. We're talking $185,000 in earnings. She didn't get there through massive sponsorships or appearance money. Every single dollar came from outplaying people on courts. That's the kind of number that changes how nations invest in tennis. That's the kind of trajectory that forces federations to start believing in their own infrastructure. Here's what happens next. This summer, 2 paths might converge again. Eala's opening her North American campaign, Washington, D.C., the final week of July into early August. Meanwhile, Sabalenka's preparing to defend her Cincinnati title. If both navigate their early opponents, the mathematics of the draw could put them in front of each other. World number 28 against the number 1. But it's not about rankings anymore. When they meet this summer, whether DC or Cincinnati or even the US Open itself, you're not watching 2 players with different rankings. You're watching 2 different philosophies about what it means to be a professional athlete. One player stood on a beach. Only one of those choices puts you in the same company as Pacquiao and Olympic champions. So here's your question for the comments. When these 2 finally face off on hard courts, who takes it? How many sets? Lock in your prediction now. Everyone who calls it in advance gets to say they saw this moment coming. Because if you've been paying attention from Miami to Berlin to that tiebreak against the defending champion, you've watched a career climb past $1 million in real time. Subscribe. Make your call. The real summer is just getting started.